Elon Musk sues OpenAI and Sam Altman. I can promise you that there's a few things in this video that will shock you. Let's dive right into it. Alright, so before I get into the juicy parts of this video, I just want to make sure I hold up on my promise, and here my gift to you, a first class ticket to Stunland. And in case you are permanently stunned or shocked, don't worry, we have the shock ambulance on standby. So Elon Musk sues OpenAI for abandoning its original mission for profit. This is an article from Reuters. A lot of people are talking about it right now. It is the talk of the AI space. So let's dive into the actual lawsuit. So here we have the actual lawsuit, and I read through this whole thing. You can see here Superior Court of California, and is for the county of San Francisco. We have Elon Musk and an individual plaintiff versus Samuel Altman, individual Gregory Brockman, and then about maybe 9 or 10 different versions of OpenAI. This complaint is for breach of contract, promissory estoppel, breach of fiduciary duty, unfair competition, and he is demanding for jury trial. All right, so at the start is just covering the different parties, jurisdiction and venue, and then general allegations and overview of the case. So to start off, they start talking about the risk of artificial general intelligence. And you got to think, I mean, if we take this to court, to a jury, typical person, like if you go out on your day-to-day, typically with the people you talk to, they're not watching AI videos like you are here. They don't know too much about AI, let alone AGI, let alone them being able to judge the fact if a model or if something is AGI. And we'll get into that in just a second. You'll kind of see how that is kind of what is centered around this lawsuit. You know, it's kind of speculation, and even professionals in this space, you know, researchers and whatnot, we still haven't been able to fully determine what is AGI or what isn't AGI. Google's released a research paper on what is AGI and whatnot, but you know, it's going to be harder for a jury most likely. So, but at the start right here, we're giving an overview of kind of the build up to AI as we have it right now, and what AGI really is. So over the course of the 20th century, the United States shifted from a primarily human labor-based economy to a primarily knowledge-based economy. And we've seen this, right? With economic value increasingly created primarily by human intelligence. As the century progressed, another paradigm shift was already underway: value creation through artificial intelligence, AI. Early AI programs were capable of outperforming humans in certain discrete tasks. Almost immediately after the invention of the programmable computer, AI could show superhuman performance on a highly formalized problem like finding the fastest path through a network of roads. It took longer for AI to reach superiority for problems requiring more creativity. In 1996, IBM's Deep Blue AI program beat Garry Kasparov, the then world champion in chess. These programs, while useful, were essentially one-trick ponies. Their intelligence was not general. Deep Blue had massive arrays of processors that could only play chess. Algorithms for pathfinding could solve a maze or route a car, but they could not paint a painting. All right, so essentially what they're saying is back then, obviously they were one-trick ponies, and starting in the late 2000s and early 2010s, an older algorithm called deep learning became practical to implement on low-cost hardware for the first time. This caused an almost overnight revolution in performance across nearly all AI projects. New top-of-class algorithms were developed for turning speech into text, translating between languages, and recognizing what kind of food is shown in a photo. One of the hallmarks of deep learning is that algorithms do not need to be designed with significant knowledge of the task at hand. They learn each task from training examples, essentially programming themselves. This means that they are far more general purpose than the earlier systems like Deep Blue. And then, as deep learning algorithms increasingly sophisticated, some of the world's leading AI researchers set their sights on what has come to be called artificial general intelligence, AGI. And now they're getting into the concept of AGI. The basic concept of AGI is a general purpose artificial intelligence system, a machine having intelligence for a wide variety of tasks like a human. And then Mr. Musk has long recognized that AGI poses grave threat to humanity, perhaps the greatest existential threat we face today. His concerns mirrored those raised before him by luminaries like Stephen Hawking and Sun Microsystems founder Bill Joy. Our entire economy is based around the fact that humans work together and come up with the best solutions to a hard task. If a machine can solve nearly any task better than we can, that machine becomes more economically useful than we are. And we're seeing this already in different fields, and we're going to continue seeing this as the months and years go on. We're seeing this in things like programming, design, writing, etc. You know, the movie industry, entertainment, and it's just keep getting more and more, you know, prominent in our day-to-day and our different economy, basically. So as Mr. Joy warned, with strong AGI, the future doesn't need us. Mr. Musk publicly called for a variety of measures to address the dangers of AGI, from voluntary moratoria to regulation, but his calls largely fell on deaf ears. But where some like Mr. Musk see an existential threat in AGI, others see AGI as a source for profit and power. In 2014, Google acquired DeepMind, a research group focused on deep learning. One of DeepMind's initial developments was AlphaZero, a chess playing algorithm. Unlike previous algorithms, however, AlphaZero used reinforcement learning, wherein the program learns to play chess by playing itself with different versions of the software. It starts by playing randomly with no understanding of the game strategy. When one of the software wins a game against another, the winning program's internal pathways are reinforced and the process repeats. AlphaZero rapidly became the strongest chess playing system in the world. Shockingly, it was also announced that this same program was also the strongest in the world for playing two other extremely difficult games. In Google DeepMind's words, starting from random play and given no domain knowledge or expertise except the game rules, AlphaZero achieved within 24 hours a superhuman level of gameplay play in the games of chess, shogi, Japanese chess, as well as Go, and convincingly defeated a world champion program in each case. And you know, if you haven't watched AlphaGo, the documentary, it's a really great documentary on AlphaGo, where Google's DeepMind takes on the best Go player in the world. Go is the most difficult game in the world, and spoiler, AlphaGo beats the best Go player, and it's pretty crazy to see. So with the DeepMind team, Google immediately catapulted to the front of the race for AGI. Mr. Musk was deeply troubled by this development. He believed, and still does, in the hands of a closed for-profit company like Google, AGI poses a particularly acute and nauseous danger to humanity. In 2014, it was already difficult enough to compete with Google in its core businesses. Google had collected a uniquely large set of data from our searches, our emails, and nearly every book in our libraries. Nevertheless, up to this point, everyone still had the potential to compete with Google through superior human intelligence and hard work. AGI would make competition nearly impossible. Now they get into the founding agreement of OpenAI Inc. So Mr. Altman purported to share Mr. Musk's concerns over the threat posed by AGI. In 2015, Mr. Altman wrote that development of superhuman intelligence, SMI, is probably the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity. There are other threats that I think are more certain to happen, but are unlikely to destroy every human in the universe in the way SMI could. Later that same year, Mr. Altman approached Mr. Musk with a proposal that they join forces to form a non-profit AI lab that would try to catch up to Google in the race for AGI, but it would be the opposite of Google. Together with Mr. Brockman, the three agreed that this new lab, A, would be a non-profit developing AGI for the benefit of humanity, not a for-profit company seeking to maximize shareholder profits, and B, would be open source, balancing on countervailing safety considerations, and not keep its technology closed and secret for proprietary commercial reasons. The founding agreement. Reflecting the founding agreement, Mr. Musk named this new AI lab OpenAI, which would compete and serve as a vital counterbalance to Google DeepMind in the race for AGI, but would do so to benefit humanity, not the shareholders of a private company, for-profit company, much less one of the largest technology companies in the world. And, you know, to be honest, if I was Elon Musk, I would definitely probably feel some sort of way if, you know, once you'll see here, he definitely played a big part in kind of bootstrapping this company from the ground up, as well as using his name and connections and whatnot. And to see that happen, you know, you come up with the name OpenAI to be an open company, and then it becomes a very, very, very closed company, extremely for profit company. I can see why that would definitely make him feel some sort of way. And you'll see here, the founding agreement was never actually a formal contract, but you'll see here as we continue going through this, it's potentially mentioned in a few different ways, such as the articles of incorporation and a few other places. So the founding agreement was also memorialized, among other places, in OpenAI Inc.'s December 8th, 2015 certificate of incorporations, which affirmed that its resulting technology will benefit the public and the corporation will seek to open source technology for the benefit when applicable. Corporation is not organized for the private gain of any person. Example 1 at 1. The certificate of incorporation further affirmed that all of the corporation's property irrevocably dedicated to these agreed purposes. In reliance on the founding agreement, which Mr. Altman, Mr. Brockman, and OpenAI reaffirmed with Mr. Musk on multiple occasions, Mr. Musk was a moving force behind the creation of OpenAI, contributing a majority of its funding in the first several years, advising on research directions, and most importantly, recruiting some of the world's leading scientists and engineers to work at the nonprofit venture, including chief scientist Ilya Sutskever. Recruiting for OpenAI was a Herculean task in the face of relentless recruiting efforts by Google DeepMind, coupled with the lavish compensation Google DeepMind offered. There would be no OpenAI Inc. without Mr. Musk's founding contributions and early leadership. Mr. Musk continued to make contributions to OpenAI Inc. from its founding through September 14th, 2020. All right, and Ilya Sutskever, if you don't know, he was, basically OpenAI's top engineer and chief scientist. And back last year, when Sam Altman got fired, and potentially who we don't fully know who started the coup, but Ilya also voted Sam out, and everyone was wondering, what did Ilya see? Did he see AGI? Did he see something that could threaten humanity, right? So did he see something that could threaten humanity? Was it Q star? What was it? And very interestingly enough, this lawsuit references all of those points. It references Q star and it talks about it. And this is crazy because, if this really goes to trial and all this stuff, that type of information, such as Q star and all that stuff that was really shaking up the AI industry, and it was some of the biggest stuff we've seen so far, that's going to start becoming a bit more mainstream and a much more concern for the average day person, right? So Mr. Musk continued to make contributions to OpenAI Inc. from its founding through September 14th, 2020. All right, now OpenAI's initial research was performed in the open, providing free and public access to design models and code. When OpenAI Inc. researchers discovered that an algorithm called Transformers, initially invented by Google, could perform many natural language tasks without any explicit training, entire communities sprang up to enhance and extend the models released by OpenAI Inc. These communities spread to open source, grassroots efforts, and commercial entities alike. Mr. Altman became OpenAI's CEO in 2019. On September 22nd, 2020, OpenAI entered into an agreement with Microsoft, exclusively licensing to Microsoft its generative pre-trained Transformer GPT-3 language model. However, OpenAI published a detailed paper describing the internals and training data for GPT-3 enabling the community to create similar models themselves. And most critically, the Microsoft license only applied to OpenAI's pre-trained AGI technology. Microsoft obtained no rights to AGI, and it was up to OpenAI Inc.'s non-profit board, not Microsoft, to determine when OpenAI attained AGI. All right, so that's setting the stage for the founding agreement. Next is the 2023 breach of the founding agreement. In 2023, defendants Mr. Altman, Mr. Brockman, and OpenAI set the founding agreement aflame. In March 2023, OpenAI released its most powerful language model yet, GPT-4. GPT-4 is not just capable of reasoning, it is better at reasoning than the average humans. It scored in the 90th percentile in the uniform bar exams for lawyers. It scored on the 99th percentile on the GRE verbal assessment. It even scored a 77% on the advanced sommelier examination. At this point in time, Mr. Altman caused OpenAI to radically depart from its original mission and historical practice of making its technology and knowledge available to the public. GPT-4's internal design was kept and remains a complete secret to OpenAI and, on information and belief, Microsoft. There are no scientific publications describing the design of GPT-4. Instead, there are just press releases bragging about performance. On information and belief, this secrecy is primarily driven by commercial considerations, not safety. Although developed by OpenAI using contributions from Plaintiff and others that were intended to benefit the public, GPT-4 is now a de facto Microsoft proprietary algorithm which is integrated into its Office software suite. All right, and this, if you're hearing this and you've been following the whole AI scene and industry, and you've seen what happened to OpenAI, and you saw this whole debacle go on last year where Sam got fired and all this stuff happened, and we never really fully got the answer as to what actually happened, what could have caused this. And now you're seeing this. It could make sense. This could be kind of, Musk probably has a bit, obviously Musk, some people will say he has his own self-interest, and yes, of course, but at the same time, he probably has a pretty good idea as to, maybe what's going on. And, we're going to get to see some kind of behind the scenes stuff, as well as stuff that actually kind of could make a bit of sense now that we're actually reading this. And, when you think back to what actually happened, this is following the same timeline. So furthermore, on information and belief, GPT-4 is an AGI algorithm and hence expressly outside the scope of Microsoft's September 2020 exclusive license with OpenAI. In this regard, Microsoft's own researchers have publicly stated that given the breadth and depth of GPT-4 capabilities, we believe that it could reasonably be viewed as an early yet still incomplete version of artificial general intelligence AGI system. Moreover, on information and belief, OpenAI is currently developing a model known as Q-Star, as an even stronger claim to AGI. As noted, Microsoft only has rights to certain of OpenAI's pre-AGI technology, but for purposes of Microsoft's license, it is up to OpenAI Inc.'s board to determine whether OpenAI has trained AGI, and a board coup took place in November 2023. On November 17, 2023, OpenAI Inc.'s board fired Mr. Altman after losing confidence in his abilities to continue leading OpenAI because he was not consistently candid with the board. In a series of stunning developments spanning the next several days, Mr. Altman and Mr. Brockman, in concert with Microsoft, exploited Microsoft's significant leverage over OpenAI Inc. and forced the resignation of majority of OpenAI Inc.'s board members, including Chief Scientist Ilya Sutskever. Mr. Altman was reinstated as CEO of OpenAI Inc. on November 21st. On information and belief, the new board members were handpicked by Mr. Altman and blessed by Microsoft. The new board members lack substantial AI expertise and, on information and belief, are ill-equipped by design to make an independent determination on whether and when OpenAI has attained AGI. All right, so this is something I didn't know, that apparently for Mr. Altman and Microsoft essentially picked the new board members. It's saying on information and belief, so I guess we don't fully know, but that's what they're saying. And then here they mentioned Q-Star, talked about that. Q-Star, And it even goes a bit deeper into Q star, and like it talks about A star and then Q star. So we'll get into that in a second. And essentially what they're saying is that Microsoft only had a license for the pre AGI, models, right? And Musk is arguing that GPT-4 is essentially is basically an AGI model. And if you put GPT-4 with like limitless compute, or if you filled in a few holes and taped together a few things, it would kind of maybe make sense how it could be seen as somewhat of an AGI. And I've even heard people saying like, okay, well, like a few years ago, if we saw GPT-4, we would probably say it's AGI because it's just as good, if not better, than majority of humans at many different things. And if you just kind of put together the pieces, so it was more of a general model and is just reason more and whatnot, it probably would be considered AGI. So these events of 2023 constitute flagrant breaches of the founding agreement, which defendants have essentially turned on its head. To this day, OpenAI Inc.'s website continues to profess that its charter is to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity. In reality, OpenAI Inc. has transformed into a closed source de facto subsidiary of the largest technology company in the world, Microsoft. Under its new board, it is not just developing, but it's actually refining an AGI model to maximize profits for Microsoft rather than for the benefit of humanity. Microsoft's market cap as of February 28, 2024 was $3.03 trillion. Its technology, including GPT-4, is closed source primarily to serve the proprietary commercial interests of Microsoft. Indeed, as of November 2023, drama was unfolding. Microsoft CEO boasted that it would not matter if OpenAI disappeared tomorrow. He explained that we have all the IP, intellectual property, rights, and all the capability. We have the people, we have the compute, we have all the data, we have everything. We are below them, above them, and around them. And I remember when Satya Nadella said this, and I remember at the time it was like so many people were kind of concerned, oh, is OpenAI going to lose all their enterprise clients, with this whole firing debacle? Is it going to make people lose confidence in OpenAI now that the board was so shaky and Sam could just get fired? And it was kind of just to reassure, these people, these enterprise clients, as well as anyone else, that they're going to be staying around here for a long time, even if they lose Sam or whatnot. And I remember he was saying it for that purpose, it seemed, at least. But I mean, when you really look at it and you kind of look at it in this way, it does make it seem that Microsoft has their claws a lot deeper in OpenAI than maybe some of us thought. And this case is filed to compel OpenAI to adhere to the founding agreement and return to its mission to develop AGI for the benefit of humanity, not to personally benefit the individual defendants and the largest technology company in the world. So that's really what the case, what this lawsuit is meant for. That's the outcome that they want. It to become closed source, as well as that their license deal with Microsoft to pretty much end now that they're in the AGI phase. And detailed allegations. So Mr. Musk's concerns over AGI falling into the wrong hands. In 2012, Elon Musk met Denis Hassabis, the co-founder of DeepMind, a for-profit artificial intelligence company. On or about this time, Mr. Musk and Mr. Hassabis met at SpaceX factory in California, where Mr. Musk and Mr. Hassabis discussed the greatest threats facing society. During this conversation, Mr. Hassabis emphasized the potential dangers of the advancements of AI and AI presence to society. Following this conversation, Mr. Hassabis, Mr. Musk became increasingly concerned about the potential of AI to become super intelligent, surpass human intelligence, and threaten humanity. Indeed, Mr. Musk was not the only person afraid of these dangers of AI and the research being conducted at DeepMind. It has been reported that following a meeting with Mr. Musk and Mr. Hassabis and investors in DeepMind, one of the investors remarked that the best thing that he could have done for the human race was shoot Mr. Hassabis then and there. So that's a pretty crazy statement to think of. And then Mr. Musk began discussing AI and DeepMind with those in his orbit, such as Larry Page, the then CEO, of Google's parent company, Alphabet Inc. Mr. Musk would frequently raise the dangers of AI in his conversations with Mr. Page. Mr. Musk shock, but to Mr. Musk's shock, Mr. Page unconcerned. For example, in 2013, Mr. Musk had a passionate exchange with Mr. Page about the dangers of AI. He warned that unless safeguards were put in place, artificial intelligence systems might replace humans, making our species irrelevant or even extinct. Mr. Page responded that would merely be the next stage of evolution and claimed Mr. Musk was being a speciesist, that he favored the human species over intelligent machines. Mr. Musk responded, "Well, yes, I am pro-human." At the end of 2013, Mr. Musk learned to his grave concern that Google was planning to acquire DeepMind. At this time, DeepMind was one of the most advanced AI companies in the industry. Thus, Mr. Musk was deeply concerned that DeepMind's AI technology would be in the hands of someone who viewed it and its power so cavalierly and could hide its design and capabilities behind closed doors. In an effort to prevent this powerful technology from falling into Google's hands, Mr. Musk and Luke Nosek, a co-founder of PayPal, attempted to put together funding to buy DeepMind. This effort culminated in an hour-long call wherein Mr. Musk and Mr. Nosek made one last effort to convince Mr. Hassabis not to sell DeepMind to Google. Mr. Musk told Mr. Hassabis that the future of AI should not be controlled by Larry Page. Mr. Musk and Mr. Nosek's effort was unsuccessful. It was reported in January 2014 that DeepMind would be acquired by Google. However, this did not deter Mr. Musk from continuing to ensure that AI was developed and practiced safely. Following Google's acquisitions of DeepMind, Mr. Musk began hosting his own series of dinner discussions on ways to counter Google and promote AI safety. Mr. Musk also reached out to President Barack Obama to discuss AI and AI safety in 2015. Mr. Musk and President Obama had a meeting during which Mr. Musk explained the dangers of AI and advocated for regulation. Mr. Musk felt that Obama understood the dangers of AI, but no regulation ever came. Despite these setbacks, Mr. Musk continued to advocate for safe AI practices. In 2015, it appeared that Mr. Musk may have found someone who understood his concerns about AI and his desire to keep the first AGI out of the hands of a private company like Google, defendant Sam Altman. At this time, Mr. Altman was the president of Y Combinator, a startup accelerator in Silicon Valley. Before that, Mr. Altman had been involved in various startup ventures. Mr. Altman appeared to share Mr. Musk's concerns surrounding AI. In public blog stating back to 2014, Mr. Altman stated that AGI, if made, would be the world's biggest development in technology ever. Mr. Altman also pointed out that there are many companies making strides towards achieving AGI, but acknowledged the unfortunate reality that the good ones are very selective about it. On February 25th, 2015, Mr. Altman also expressed his concerns surrounding the development of what he referred to as superhuman machine intelligence, which is identified as probably the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity, and emphasized that as a human programmed to survive and reproduce, I feel we should fight it. Further, Mr. Altman criticized those who believed that superhuman machine intelligence was dangerous, but dismissed it. Further, Mr. Altman criticized those who believed that superhuman machine intelligence was dangerous, but dismissed it as never going to happen or definitely very far off. He accused them of engaging in sloppy, dangerous thinking. Indeed, in early March 2015, Mr. Altman extolled the importance of government regulations as a means to ensure AI is created safely, and suggested a group of very smart people with a lot of resources, likely involving U.S. companies in some way, would be the most probable group to achieve superhuman machine intelligence first. Later that month, Mr. Altman reached out to Mr. Musk to inquire whether he would be interested in drafting an open letter to the United States government regarding AI. The two began preparing the letter and approaching those of influence in the technology and AI sectors about signing. It did not take long before those across the industry heard rumors of the letter. For example, in April of 2015, Mr. Hassabis reached out to Mr. Musk stating that he had heard from multiple sources that Mr. Musk was drafting a letter addressed to the president calling for regulations of AI. Mr. Musk defended the idea of the regulation of AI to Mr. Hassabis, stating, if done well, it may very well accelerate AI in the long term. Without the public comfort that regulatory oversight provides, there could very well be a situation where an AI causes great harm and thereafter AI research is banned as dangerous to public safety. 5 days after Mr. Hassabis reached out to Mr. Musk about the open letter regarding AI, Mr. Hassabis announced the first meeting of Google DeepMind's AI Ethic Board, a board that Google and DeepMind promised to establish 2 years earlier when Google acquired DeepMind. Mr. Musk was asked to be a member of the board and offered for the first meeting to be hosted at SpaceX in California. It became clear to Mr. Musk after the first meeting that this board was not a serious endeavor, but rather a facade to try to slow down any regulation of AI. The OpenAI letter was published on October 28, 2015, and signed by over 11,000 individuals, including Mr. Musk, Stephen Hawking, and Steve Wozniak. OpenAI's founding agreement on May 25th, 2015, Mr. Altman emailed Mr. Musk, writing that he been thinking a lot about whether it's possible to stop humanity from developing AI. I think the answer is definitely not. If it's going to happen, it seems like it would be good for someone other than Google to do it first. Mr. Altman had the idea that Y Combinator start a Manhattan Project for AI. Unfortunately, it turns out that the Manhattan Project is a moniker that may all be too apt. He proposed that we could structure it to be so that tech belongs to the world via some sort of non-profit, but the people working on it get startup-like compensation if it works. Obviously, we comply with / aggressively support all regulation. Mr. Musk responded, probably worth a conversation. After further communications, Mr. Altman emailed Mr. Musk on June 25, 2015 with a detailed proposal for this new AI lab. The mission would be to create the first general AI and use it for individual empowerment, i.e. the distributed version of the future that seems to be the safest. More generally, safety should be the first-class requirement. The technology would be owned by the foundation and used for the good of the world. He proposed that they start with a group of 7 to 10 people and expand from there. He also proposed a governance structure. Mr. Musk responded, agreed to all. Soon thereafter, Mr. Musk began recruiting others to help with the development of the project. Notably, Mr. Altman approached Gregory Brockman to help with the project. In November 2015, Mr. Altman put Mr. Brockman in communication with Mr. Musk via email regarding the project. Mr. Brockman told Mr. Musk, I hope for us to enter the field as a neutral group looking to collaborate widely and shift the dialogue towards being about humanity winning rather than any particular group or company. I think that that's the best way to bootstrap ourselves into a leading research institution. Optimistic about the possibility of a neutral AI research group focused on humanity rather than profit for any particular individual or group. Mr. Musk told Mr. Brockman that he would commit funding. Mr. Musk came up with the name of the new lab, a name reflecting the founding agreement, OpenAI Institute, or simply OpenAI. With these principles of the founding agreement in mind, Mr. Musk joined forces with Mr. Altman and Mr. Brockman to formalize the launch of this project. Mr. Musk actively involved in the project even prior to being publicly announced. For example, Mr. Musk advised Mr. Brockman on compensation packages for employees, sharing with Mr. Brockman his strategies for compensation and retaining talent. On December 8, 2015, a certificate of incorporation for OpenAI was filed with the Delaware Secretary of State. The certificate memorialized in writing the founding agreement. Third, this corporation shall be a non-profit corporation organized exclusively for charitable and or educational purposes within the meaning of Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as amended, or the corresponding provision of any future United States Internal Revenue Law. The specific purpose of this corporation is to provide funding for research, development, and distribution of technology related to artificial intelligence. The resulting technology will benefit the public, and the corporation will seek to open source technology for the public benefit when applicable. The corporation is not organized for private gain or any person. And then fifth, the property of this corporation is irrevocably dedicated to the purposes in Article 3, right here, hereof, and no part of the net income or assets of this corporation shall ever inure to the benefit of any director, officer, or member thereof, or to the benefit of any private person upon the dissolution or winding up of this corporation, its assets remaining after payment or provision for payment of all debts and liabilities of this corporation shall be distributed to a non-profit fund, foundation, or corporation which is organized and operated exclusively for charitable, educational, and or religious purposes, and which has established its tax-exempt status under the Internal Revenue Code Section 501 or the corresponding sections of any future federal tax code, or shall be distributed to the federal government or state of local government for a public purpose. All right, so you can see here, like I said, they never had a formal founders agreement, like a contract, but it was, you know, what Musk is saying here is it was mentioned in the certificate of incorporation, right? OpenAI was publicly announced on December 11th, 2015. In the announcement, Mr. Musk and Mr. Altman were named as co-chairs, and Mr. Brockman was named as the CTO. The announcement emphasized that OpenAI was designed to benefit humanity, and its research would be free from financial obligations. OpenAI is a non-profit artificial intelligence research company. Our goal is to advance digital intelligence in the way that is most likely to benefit humanity as a whole, unconstrained by a need to generate financial returns. Since our research is free from financial obligations, we can better focus on a positive human impact. All right, and obviously this, essentially, if you look at where we're at now, they're definitely making a profit. Example 3 at 1, Mr. Musk's crucial role in getting OpenAI off the ground. In an email on the day of the public announcement, Mr. Musk wrote that our most important consideration is recruitment of the best people. He pledged that helping with the recruiting effort would be an absolute top priority 24/7. He acknowledged that we are outmanned and outgunned by a ridiculous margin by organizations you know well, but we have right on our side, and that counts for a lot. I like the odds. Mr. Musk brought to bear his connections, stature, and clout in the effort. The fact that OpenAI was an Elon Musk sponsored initiative and that Mr. Musk served as co-chair was instrumental to OpenAI Inc.'s recruiting efforts, particularly in the face of Google DeepMind's counter-recruiting. Without Mr. Musk's involvement and substantial support efforts and resources, his consideration for the founding agreement, it is highly likely that OpenAI Inc. would have never gotten off the ground. One of the most important initial hires was for the role of chief scientist. Mr. Altman, Mr. Brockman, and Mr. Musk all wanted Ilya Sutskever, then a research scientist at Google. In that role, Dr. Sutskever went back and forth on whether to leave Google and join the project, but it was ultimately a call from Mr. Musk on the day OpenAI was publicly announced that convinced Dr. Sutskever to commit to joining the project as OpenAI Inc.'s chief scientist. Mr. Musk actively recruited for OpenAI Inc. over the next several months. Google DeepMind made increasingly lavish counteroffers to OpenAI Inc.'s recruits in attempt to kill the new venture. In late February, Mr. Musk emailed Mr. Brockman and Altman reiterating that we need to do what it takes to get that top talent. Let's go higher. If at some point we need to revisit what existing people are getting paid, that's fine. Either we get the best people in the world or we will be whipped by DeepMind. Whatever it takes to bring on ace talent is fine by me. DeepMind is causing me extreme mental stress. If they win, it will really be bad news with their one mind to rule the world philosophy. They are obviously making major progress, and well, they should given the talent level over there. Mr. Musk was not just using his connections and clout to recruit on behalf of OpenAI. When he told Mr. Brockman and Mr. Altman to go higher in their offers and do what it takes to get the top talent, he was the one funding those higher offers. In 2016 alone, Mr. Musk contributed over $15 million to OpenAI Inc., more than any other donor. The funding he provided enabled OpenAI to assemble a team of top talent. Similarly, in 2017, Mr. Musk contributed nearly $20 million to OpenAI, again, more than any other donor. All told, Mr. Musk contributed more than $44 million to OpenAI between 2016 and September 2020. In addition, through Musk Industries LLC, Mr. Musk leased OpenAI Inc.'s initial office space in their Pioneer building in San Francisco and paid monthly rental expenses. Mr. Musk regularly visited OpenAI Inc. and was present for important company milestones, such as when the first DGX-1 AI supercomputer was donated to OpenAI Inc. in 2016. Mr. Musk would receive updates on OpenAI Inc.'s progress and would provide his feedback and advice. So all that's basically just showcasing how pivotal Mr. Musk, or Elon Musk, was to OpenAI, and I would not disagree with that. Mr. Altman and Mr. Brockman repeatedly reaffirmed the founding agreement. In 2017, Mr. Brockman and others suggested transforming OpenAI Inc. from a non-profit to a for-profit corporation. After a series of communications over several weeks, Mr. Musk told Mr. Brockman, Dr. Sutskever, and Mr. Altman, either go do something on your own or continue with OpenAI as a non-profit. I will no longer fund OpenAI until you have made a firm commitment to stay, or I'm being a fool who is essentially providing free funding to a startup. Discussions are over. In response, Mr. Altman told Mr. Musk, I remain enthusiastic about the non-profit structure. Ultimately, Mr. Brockman and Mr. Sutskever conveyed to Mr. Musk that they too were resolved to continuing the non-profit structure, and that they would spend the next year committed to fundraising to support the non-profit. On February 21st, 2018, Mr. Musk stepped down as co-chair of OpenAI Inc. Nevertheless, Mr. Musk continued making contributions to OpenAI, relying on and in furtherance of the founding agreement. For example, in 2018, Mr. Musk donated approximately $3.5 million to OpenAI. He also continued receiving updates about OpenAI Inc. from Mr. Brockman, Dr. Sutskever, and Mr. Altman. In April 2018, Mr. Altman and Mr. Altman sent Mr. Musk a draft OpenAI charter and solicited his feedback. The draft charter described OpenAI's mission as to ensure that AGI benefits all of humanity. It stated, we commit to any influence we obtain over AGI's deployment to ensure it is used for the benefit of all, and to avoid enabling uses of AI or AGI that harm humanity or unduly concentrate power. Our primary fiduciary duty is to humanity. We anticipate needing to marshal substantial resources to fulfill our mission, but will always assiduously act to minimize conflicts of interest that could compromise broad benefit. On March 11, 2019, OpenAI announced that it would be creating a for-profit subsidiary, OpenAI LP. Prospective investors were notified as an important warning at the top of the summary term sheet that the for-profit entity exists to advance OpenAI Inc.'s the non-profit mission of ensuring that safe artificial general intelligence is developed and benefits all of humanity. A general partner's duty to this mission and the principles advanced in the OpenAI Inc.'s charter take precedence over any obligation to generate a profit. Accordingly, investors were expressly advised that it would be wise to view any investment in OpenAI LP in the spirit of a donation. Following the announcement, Mr. Musk reached out to Mr. Altman, asking him to be explicit that I have no financial interest in the for-profit arm of OpenAI. However, Mr. Musk continued to support OpenAI, the nonprofit, donating an additional $3.48 million in 2019. On September 22nd, 2020, OpenAI announced that it exclusively licensed certain of its pre-AGI technology to Microsoft. Consistent with the founding agreement, OpenAI's website states that AGI, which is described as a highly autonomous system that outperforms humans at most economically valuable work, is excluded from IP licenses and other commercial terms with Microsoft, which only applies for pre-AGI technology. However, OpenAI's board determines when we've attained AGI. And here it just talks about OpenAI's shifting corporate structure, going through, like, the following announcement. OpenAI's corporate structure became increasingly complex, just talking about the whole concept of how they're like a non-profit own, like all that, and then there's a for-profit and how it specifically works. And this was obviously a contributing factor to why Sam Altman was able to get fired from the board and all that stuff, because it was so complex and kind of weird. And then the development of OpenAI's technology from AI to AGI. Initial work at OpenAI followed much in the footsteps of DeepMind. OpenAI used reinforcement learning to play a game instead of playing chess. However, OpenAI completed a Dota 2, a strategy video game with far more moving pieces than chess. OpenAI's team quickly constructed a new model that beat the reigning world champion team, demonstrating that self-play reinforcement learning can achieve superhuman performance on a difficult task. Meanwhile, at Google, an algorithm called the Transformer was created that solved many of the issues deep learning had faced in understanding long sequences of text. This algorithm, an example of a large language model, was developed to translate text from one language to another, and works by forming connections between words in the source language and mapping those connections to the target language. Researchers at OpenAI continued this research and quickly produced yet another startling result. By using the first half of Google's transformer architecture, a deep neural network could be pre-trained on a large corpus of text used to generate new text. In January 2018, OpenAI released the source code and trained model for the generated pre-trained transformer GPT, along with the detailed paper describing the model and its capabilities. In 2019, OpenAI released a second generation model, GPT-2. The release was again accompanied with a detailed paper describing the model and noting the unlike previous models, which needed to be trained on a specific task. When a large language model is trained on a sufficiently large and diverse data set, it is able to perform across many domains and data sets. These models were proving themselves to be very different from previous AI systems. Instead of training the system to perform a particular task, they could be simply asked to perform a new task in natural language. As contemplated by the founding agreement, OpenAI publicly released the full version of GPT-2. Notably, it did so despite the fact that humans find GPT-2 outputs convincing. That GPT-2 can be fine-tuned for misuse, and the detection of GPT-generated text is challenging. At the time, OpenAI stated that it was releasing the full open version with the hope that it will be useful to developers of powerful models. This release was accompanied by a detailed paper co-authored by OpenAI scientists, as well as independent social and technical scientists. This paper explained just some of the many benefits that came from releasing models publicly as opposed to keeping them closed. Their publication did prove to be useful to the developers of future powerful models. The entire community sprung up to enhance and extend the models released by OpenAI. These communities spread to open source, grassroots efforts, and commercial entities alike. In 2020, OpenAI announced the third version of its model, GPT-3. It used 175 billion parameters, 10 times more than the previous non-sparse language model. Again, OpenAI announced the development of this model with the publication of a research paper describing its complete implementation for others to build on. In 2020, researchers at Google took these results and showed that a small change called chain of thought prompting could enable large language models to perform complex reasoning. Researchers at the University of Tokyo and Google quickly expanded on Google's results and showed that OpenAI's GPT-3 could reason about an entirely new problem in a step-by-step manner like a human by simply adding let's think step by step before each answer. A path to artificial general intelligence could be seen, and the timeline to it was dramatically compressing. On March 14, 2023, OpenAI released a new generation of its model, GPT-4. This generation was not just capable of reasoning, but was better at reasoning than the average humans. GPT-4 scored in the 90th percentile in the Uniform Bar exam. It scored a 99th percentile on the GRE verbal assessment, and it even scored a 77th percentile on the Advanced Sommelier examination. By OpenAI's own objective measures, GPT-4 is already capable of intelligence that is superior to humans on a wide variety of economically valuable tasks. And I mean, yeah, that's 100% true. It definitely is superior to many humans on many different tasks. This development was not lost on the research community. It In a detailed analysis titled Sparks of Artificial General Intelligence, Early Experiments with GPT-4, Microsoft researchers note that GPT-4 can solve novel and difficult tasks that span mathematics, coding, vision, medicine, law, psychology, and more, without needing any specific prompting. Moreover, in all of these tasks, GPT-4's performance is strikingly close to human-level performance and often vastly surpasses prior models such as GPT 3.5 based ChatGPT. And they compared the performance of GPT-4 with the performance of GPT-3 based systems and found that there is no comparison with the outputs from GPT-4. On mathematical problems, they show that the solutions given by GPT-4 is correct and the argument is sound, while ChatGPT, based on GPT-3, produces an incorrect solution, which, in the case of a human, would reflect a lack of understanding of the concept of function inversion. On another example, they show that GPT-4 gives correct solutions, while GPT 3.5 begins by rearranging the terms without any clear direction or purpose and ends up in the incorrect solution. Microsoft's own scientists acknowledge that GPT-4 attains a form of general intelligence, and that given the breadth and depth of GPT-4 capabilities, we believe that it could be reasonably viewed as an early yet still incomplete version of artificial general intelligence AGI systems. And the founding agreement is breached in 2023. So, having breached the threshold of AGI, which under the founding agreement they were to be developed for the benefit of humanity rather than for any for-profit company or personal profit defendants, instead radically departed from their mission in breach of the founding agreement. GPT-4 is an entirely closed model. The internal design of GPT-4 remains a secret and no code has been released. OpenAI has not published a paper describing any aspects of its internal designs. It has simply issued press releases boasting about its performance. The internal details of GPT-4 are known only to OpenAI and on information and belief to Microsoft. GPT-4 is hence the opposite of OpenAI, and it is closed for proprietary commercial reasons. Microsoft stands to make a fortune selling GPT-4 to the public, which would not be possible if OpenAI, as it is required to do, makes the technology freely available to the public. Contrary to the founding agreement, defendants have chosen to use GPT-4 not for the benefit of humanity, but as a proprietary technology to maximize profits for literally the largest company in the world. Further, OpenAI's entire development is now veiled in secrecy, and the public only has rumors and isolated fragments of communication to understand what may be released next. And I mean, yeah, this seems like it is currently pretty much the case. If you're in this AI space, if you've been up to date with the different news and whatnot, we're only just kind of speculating based on little leaks or whatnot, what these new releases could be, Q-Star, etc. And yeah, it's interesting how it went from OpenAI to fully closed AI. And researchers have pointed out that one of the remaining limitations of GPT-4 or GPT architecture-based AIs is that they generate their output a piece at a time and cannot backtrack. These issues have been seen in artificial intelligence research and have been largely solved for other applications. In path and maze finding, AI must be able to find the right path despite the existence of dead ends along the way. The standard algorithm to perform this is called A*, pronounced A*, or A*, pronounced A*. And Reuters has reported that OpenAI is developing a secret algorithm called Q*, and this is something that Sam has confirmed about Q*. And while it is not clear that what Q* is, Reuters has reported that several OpenAI staffs have wrote a letter warning about the potential power of Q*. It appears Q* may now or in the future be a part of an even clearer and more striking example of artificial general intelligence that has been developed by OpenAI. And from what I've seen with Q*, it looks like it's pretty much like right either there or on the cusp from what we've seen. Obviously, we don't know what is validated or what isn't for sure, but we have had different people at OpenAI apparently report to Reuters, two people specifically, that they found something that could, really damage humanity or be a danger to humanity. So, I mean, that's kind of scary when you think of it. As an AGI, it would be explicitly outside the scope of OpenAI's license with Microsoft and must be made available for the benefit of the public at large. For purposes of the license with Microsoft, OpenAI Inc.'s board determines whether OpenAI has attained AGI, and in a series of shocking, very, very, very shocking and stunning developments described in more detail below, a majority of OpenAI Inc.'s board was forced to resign on November 22nd, 2023, and their replacements were on information and belief handpicked by Mr. Altman and Microsoft. On November 17, 2023, OpenAI's board dismissed Mr. Altman and announced in a blog post that Mr. Altman had been fired from and his departure follows a deliberative review process by the board, which concluded that he was not consistently candid in his communications with the board, hindering its ability to exercise its responsibilities. The board no longer has confidence in his abilities to continue leading OpenAI. Mr. Brockman was also removed from the board, but was told he could retain his role at OpenAI. At the time, the board consisted of Helen Toner, Adam D'Angelo, Tasha McCauley, Dr. Sutskever, Mr. Brockman, and Mr. Altman. In addition to serving on the board, Mrs. Toner is a research and advisor for the Center of Governance of AI, GovAI, and the Director of Strategy at Georgetown Center for Security and Emerging Technology. Ms. Coley is a Senior Management Scientist at RAND Corporation, a nonprofit which specializes in public publicity decision-making. She is also an advisor at GovAI. Mr. D'Angelo, the only board member to remain after Mr. Altman's reinstatement, is a tech CEO and entrepreneur. The choice to include on OpenAI Inc.'s boards multiple academics and public policy experts with the deep AI policy experience, most of whom had no financial stake in the company, was deliberate. This composition of financially disinterested board members with strong records of public service ensured that the board would put the nonprofit's principal beneficiary, humanity, before financial success. This safeguard was put in place for the board in furtherance of OpenAI Inc.'s nonprofit mission and the founding agreement to safely create AGI, which would benefit humanity, not the pecuniary interests of a for-profit company. On information and belief, Mr. Altman's firing was due in part to OpenAI's breakthrough in realizing AGI. In fact, news reports suggested that there was a rift among OpenAI board members and executives regarding safety concerns and the potential threat posed by OpenAI's next generation Q-Star. All right, so we're really getting into Q-Star, and this is what, I made videos on this, and this is kind of what some of my speculation was, and many people's speculation, that Q-Star could have had a very big factor, and everyone was saying, what did Ilya Sutskever see? What did he see? What made him really freak out? And I mean, it would make sense. We never got an answer really what this was. We never got an answer. It's just been kind of brushed under the rug, right? So news of Mr. Altman's ouster spread rapidly. Following the board's announcement that Mr. Altman was fired, Mr. Brockman announced that he would be leaving OpenAI with Mr. Altman. When Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella learned of Mr. Altman's firing, he was reportedly furious. As a 49% shareholder in OpenAI's for-profit arm, Mr. Nadella felt that Microsoft should have been consulted before Mr. Altman's firing. However, at this time, outside of Mr. Altman, OpenAI Inc.'s board had no ties to Microsoft, had no fiduciary duty to investors in the for-profit arm. Rather, on information and belief, Mr. Altman was the primary liaison between Microsoft and OpenAI. Mr. Nadella invited Mr. Altman and Mr. Brockman to lead a new Microsoft AI research lab unbound by the constraints of OpenAI's humanitarian mission. Nadella made it clear that employees who left OpenAI would be welcome at Microsoft's new lab with the same salary. Microsoft was confident in its substantial ownership in OpenAI's for-profit arm. It could completely sequester OpenAI Inc.'s research should the company cease to exist. Indeed, during an interview shortly after Mr. Altman's firing, Mr. Satya Nadella said, "We were very confident in our own ability. We have all the IP and rights and capabilities. If OpenAI disappeared tomorrow, I don't want any customer of ours to be worried about it, quite honestly, because we have all the rights to continue the innovation, not just to serve the product, but we can go and just do what we were doing in partnership ourselves. We have the people, we have the compute, we have the data, we have everything. And despite Microsoft's statement regarding their capabilities to function without OpenAI, Microsoft never abandoned its plan to secure the reinstatement of Mr. Altman as OpenAI's CEO. In the days following Mr. Altman's firing, OpenAI's board was faced with mounting pressure from lawyers and major stakeholders, including Microsoft, to reinstate Mr. Altman. Mrs. Toner was specifically targeted in efforts to reinstate Mr. Altman. During these efforts, a lawyer for OpenAI told Mrs. Toner that she and the board could face claims for breach of their fiduciary duties to investors should OpenAI fail to do Mr. Altman's hiring. However, the OpenAI board has never had a fiduciary duty to investors. In fact, all investors in the for-profit arm told that the company's duty is to Microsoft takes precedence over its duty to its investors. And OpenAI Inc.'s website clearly indicates it only holds a fiduciary duty to humanity. Mrs. Toner, who described the lawyer's actions as an intimidation tactic, opined that Mr. Altman's continued removal would in fact advance the company's mission by prompting the safety of humanity over profit. However, none of this dissuaded the shareholders and Mr. Altman from pushing for his reinstatement. Further, Microsoft had substantial coercive power over OpenAI and its board. During the period of Mr. Altman's firing, CEO Nadella said the following of Microsoft's relationship with OpenAI: "We are in there. We are below them. We are above them. We do the kernel organizations. We build the tools. We build the infrastructure." So that's why I think a lot of the industrial analysis saying, oh, wow, it's really a joint project between Microsoft and OpenAI. The reality is we are, as I said, very self-sufficient in all of this. Moreover, at the time of the firing, Microsoft had only paid a fraction of a $10 billion investment commitment it had made to OpenAI, giving Microsoft serious leverage over the independent nonprofit board. Additionally, if Microsoft withheld its cloud computing system on which OpenAI was reliant, the company would be incapacitated. Pressure on the board from Mr. Altman and Microsoft continued until November 21st, when Mr. Altman was reinstated as the CEO of OpenAI and Mr. Brockman was rejoined as president. One of Mr. Altman's conditions upon return was that Mrs. Toner, Mrs. Macaulay, and Dr. Sutherford resign from the board. On information and belief following his return, Mr. Altman handpicked a new board that lacks similar technical expertise of any of the substantial background in AI governments, which the previous board had by design. Mr. D'Angelo, a tech CEO and entrepreneur, was the only member of the previous board to remain after Mr. Altman's return. The new board consisted of members with more experience in profit-centric enterprises or politics than in AI ethics and governance. They were also reportedly big fans of Altman. Two of the new board members were Brett Taylor and Larry Summers. Mr. Taylor is no stranger to Silicon Valley and has been heavily involved in various Bay Area profit-driven ventures. On February 14, 2014, Mr. Taylor and ex-Google executive Clay Baver launched a startup focused on building AI chatbots for businesses. Dr. Summers is an economist who, on information and belief, had no experience working in artificial intelligence-based ventures prior to November 2023. Microsoft also obtained an observer seat on the board from which they could keep a close eye on its ostensibly non-profit Golden Goose. With the reinstatement of Mr. Altman and the restructuring of the board, OpenAI's corporate structure had been designed as a system of checks and balances between the non-profit arm, for-profit arm, the board, and the CEO to ensure the non-profit mission was being carried out collapsed overnight. OpenAI Inc.'s once carefully crafted non-profit structure was replaced by a purely profit-driven CEO and a board with inferior technical expertise in AI, AGI, and AI public policy. The board now had an observer seat reserved solely for Microsoft. With this restructuring, OpenAI Inc. abandoned its nonprofit mission of developing AGI for the benefit of humanity broadly, thereby keeping it out of the hands of a large profit corporation in which vast power would be unduly concentrated. The OpenAI Inc.'s board technical expertise in AI neutrality and commitment to OpenAI's nonprofit mission are particularly essential to OpenAI Inc.'s mission, as it is in the board that determines whether OpenAI has attained AGI for purposes of its license agreement with Microsoft. This means that the board is tasked with determining OpenAI's most powerful and advanced technology is actually excluded from the scope of Microsoft's exclusive license. Given Microsoft's enormous financial interest in keeping the gate closed to the public, OpenAI Inc.'s new captured, conflicted, and compliant board will have every reason to delay ever making a finding that OpenAI has attained AGI. To the contrary, OpenAI's attainment of AGI, like tomorrow and Annie, will always be a day away, ensuring that Microsoft will be licensed to OpenAI's latest technology and the public will be shut out, precisely the opposite of the founding agreement. OpenAI's conduct could have seismic implications for Silicon Valley, and if allowed to stand, could present a paradigm shift for technology startups. It is important to reflect on what has transpired here. A nonprofit has collected tens of millions of dollars in contributions for the express purpose of developing AGI technology for public benefit, and shortly after achieving the very milestone that the company was created to achieve, the company has become the closed for-profit partner of the world's largest corporation, thereby personally enriching the defendants. If this business model were valid, it would radically redefine how venture capitalism is practiced in California and beyond. Rather than start out as a for-profit entity from the outset, smart investors would establish nonprofits, use pre-tax donations to fund research and development, and then once their technology has been developed and proven, would slide the resulting IP assets into a for-profit venture to enrich themselves and their profit maximizing corporate partners. That is not supposed to be how the laws in California or anywhere else in this country work, and this should not be the first court to hold otherwise. To further understand why this is important, if OpenAI's new business model is valid, for every dollar that an investor invests by contributing to a nonprofit, the investor gets approximately 50 cents back from the state or federal governments in the form of reduced income taxes. So the net cost to them of each $1 of investment is only 50 cents. However, with OpenAI's new business model, they get the same for-profit upside as those who invest in conventional ways in for-profit corporations, and thus do not get immediate tax write-offs financed by the government and ultimately the public. For an investment perspective, competing against an entity employing the new OpenAI's business model would be like playing a game of basketball where the other team's baskets are twice as many points. If the court validates OpenAI's conduct here, any startup seeking to remain competitive in Silicon Valley would essentially be required to follow the OpenAI playbook, which would become a standard operating procedure for startups to the detriment of legitimate nonprofits, the government's tax coffers, and ultimately the people of California and beyond. Notably, OpenAI's for-profit arm was recently valued at nearly $80 billion. November 2023 to present, Altman's OpenAI. The public is still in the dark regarding what exactly the board's deliberative review process revealed that resulted in initial firing of Mr. Altman. However, one thing is clear to Mr. Musk and the public at large: OpenAI has abandoned their irrevocable nonprofit mission in the pursuit of profit. Numerous leaders and intellectuals have publicly commented on the irony and tragedy of OpenAI becoming closed for profit AI. For example, on November 29, 2023, MIT economists wrote an opinion in the LA Times expressing the concerns with OpenAI's new profit-driven directive. In their words, disruptive and uncontrolled growth have become religion for the tech industry, and Altman has been one of its most dedicated high priests. Economists emphasize the new board is far more likely to allow Mr. Altman to scale up OpenAI's as quickly as possible, no matter the severity of societal costs. The president of Public Citizen, a nonprofit consumer advocacy organization, wrote an open letter to California Attorney General Rob Bonta earlier this year, raising concerns about whether OpenAI's for-profit subsidiary is exerting inappropriate control over the nonprofit, or whether the nonprofit's purpose has shifted to profit making under Mr. Altman and Microsoft. The letter suggested that should the nonprofit abandon its original mission, it should be dissolved with proceeds going to another charitable enterprise. A Wired investigation from January 2024 found that OpenAI has also recently shuttered the public's access to previously available key documents in line with OpenAI's original promise of transparency. OpenAI's IRS documents haven't indicated since its founding that any member of the public may view copies of its governing documents, financial statements, and conflict of interest rules. However, when Wired requested these documents, OpenAI indicated it had changed its policies. Thus, while OpenAI's long touted its commitment to transparency, members of the public are unable to obtain documents, shedding light on the incidents of November 2023. Access to OpenAI's documents could inform the public whether it's changed its governance to appease Microsoft's or other shareholders. At the very least, changes had to be made to accommodate Microsoft's seat on the board, and now Mr. Altman is reportedly in discussions with Middle Eastern investors to raise $7 trillion in an effort to develop a global network of AI chip fabrication plants. If $10 billion from Microsoft was enough to get a seat on the board, one can only imagine how much influence over OpenAI these new potential investments could confer on the investors. This is especially troubling when one potential donor is the National Security Advisor of the United Arab Emirates, and the United States officials are concerned due to the United Arab Emirates' ties to China. Moreover, Mr. Altman has been quoted discussing the possibility of making the UAE a regulatory sandbox where AI technologies are tested. Further, access to OpenAI's conflict of interest policy is important to shed light on the board's ability to control Mr. Altman's use of OpenAI to advance his own economic interests, which so far appears to have gone unchecked. For example, in 2019, when Mr. Altman was CEO, OpenAI signed a letter of intent to buy $51 million worth of chips from a startup in which Mr. Altman was heavily invested. While OpenAI was once a pioneer of safe, responsible development of AGI based on open communication with the public, it has now shut its doors, brought the biggest investors of its for-profit subsidiaries onto the board, which owes its only fiduciary duty to humanity, and continues in secrecy towards a profit-centric future with possible calamitous implications for humanity. Mr. Musk founded and funded OpenAI Inc. with Mr. Altman and Mr. Brockman in exchange for relying on the founding agreement to ensure AGI would benefit humanity, not for profit corporations. As events turned out in 2023, his contributions to OpenAI Inc. have been twisted to benefit the defendants and the biggest company in the world. This was a stark betrayal of the founding agreement, turning that agreement on its head and preventing OpenAI Inc.'s mission. Imagine donating to a nonprofit whose asserted mission is to protect the Amazon rainforest, but then the nonprofit creates a for-profit Amazonian logging company that uses the fruits of the donations to clear the rainforest. That is the story of OpenAI Inc. All right, and that is pretty much it. The prayer for relief is for an order compelling specific performance of defendants' repeated contractual promises, including without limitation, an order requiring the defendants to continue to follow OpenAI's long-standing practice of making AI research and technology developed at OpenAI available to the public, and an order prohibiting defendants from utilizing OpenAI or as assets for the financial benefits of the individual defendants, Microsoft, or any other particular person or entity. So it's actually making it open and, not for profit. And then for a judicial determination that GPT-4 constitutes artificial general intelligence and is thereby outside of the scope of OpenAI's license to Microsoft. For a judicial determination that Q-Star and or other OpenAI next generation large language models in development constitutes artificial general intelligence and are outside the scope of OpenAI's license to Microsoft. So basically it's saying it wants the jury to determine whether GPT-4 constitutes AGI as well as Q-Star and other potential projects that they're working on. And those are really some of the main outcomes that they want. It's going to be interesting to see if the jury, like I said, will be able to determine whether GPT-4 is AGI or whether Q-Star is AGI. I mean, if this actually goes through and if it actually gets brought to a jury, and they would have to be able to actually see if Q-Star is AGI, meaning they would have to be educated on Q-Star, maybe potentially use Q-Star and all this sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below, guys. We went really in depth into going over this whole document. And let me know what your thoughts are on this lawsuit. Do you think Elon has good intentions? Do you think he's using this for self-interest to benefit Grok AI? Me personally, I feel like he, in terms of the vision of AI, he definitely sees, if I was him, I would feel a certain type of way of seeing OpenAI turn into a very closed AI model, and especially since he was basically one of the founding partners essentially from it, or one of the biggest funders. So I kind of understand his perspective. Obviously he does have his own self-interest as well, but you know, just to see how OpenAI has transitioned over these last few years, and especially the whole debacle that went on in front of all of our faces at the end of last year, it's not a surprise that something's definitely going on. And you know, this is the most important technology in the whole world, in the whole universe that we know of. So it's you know, literally could be our you know, our next biggest thing, or it could be our own demise. So let me know your thoughts on this whole lawsuit, and make sure to smash that subscribe button to stay up to date. I will be keeping you guys posted right away with all the information regarding OpenAI, this lawsuit. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of news following this, so make sure to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Also too, guys, you will notice this bar scrolling at the bottom here. I have a bunch of free stuff for you guys, so you can check that out if you want to make sure you're developing your AI skills, staying up to date, using AI in your personal life, in your business life. I've got a bunch of free stuff made for you guys, so you can go join our free Stride AI community at stridecommunity.com. All right, you can network with like-minded individuals, a part of this channel community, as well as talk to myself. I got a bunch of free resources in there, prompts, tutorials, etc., that are exclusive to the community. Also, too, I will be hosting our free 6-day AI Accelerate Your Stride Challenge. That will be very soon. So go to accelerateyourstride.com, and all these links will be in the description, and you can sign up. Both of those are 100% free. And then also too, guys, I actually just wrote and published my first book, Client Acquisition Code. You can get your digital copy here. It is very in-depth. I left no fluff, or there's no fluff in this. I left nothing behind. It is over 600 pages of pure value, how to use AI, how to set up your prospecting systems, how to run paid ads, how to set up a CRM, really the best CRM in the world, GoHighLevel. If you don't know about GoHighLevel, definitely check it out. And speaking of GoHighLevel, the last link is GoStrideLevel.com, and that is our custom built GoHighLevel snapshot with all the funnels, websites, forms, automations that you'll need to get started and accelerate your stride, all for 100% free. These are stuff people charge thousands and thousands of dollars for, but it's free if you just sign up through GoHighLevel through our affiliate link. Costs you nothing else more. It's the same price. You just go to GoStrideLevel.com, watch that video. It explains everything. If you're interested, if you're not, no worries. You can just subscribe to this channel and stay up to date for the future videos. All right, guys, so thank you for watching this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Keep hustling, keep grinding, and of course, accelerate your stride. Take care, guys.